Hi. For those who don't know me, I'm Dirk DeMonte, Minister of Music and Worship Arts at Los Altos United Methodist Church. My wife, Carol, among many things, is the director of the Starfire Singers, and most weeks I get to accompany them. We also write the shows together that Starfire performs on our summer tours. This is the first year ever that I've introed the show sitting on a deck overlooking the Pacific Ocean. It's a beautiful spot, but believe me, I would much rather be standing on a stage getting ready to perform this show for you. This year is a year like no other. And yet here we are, bringing this show to you, a show with a message that perhaps is more vital than it has ever been. Carol and I wrote CJ Cafe, the original CJ Cafe, in 1999. We performed it that summer and then the following summer in the year 2000. And it's the only show ever that we resurrected again in 2007. We believe the message of this show is such a timely one and such a vital one for our faith. And the show just felt like a show that was worth bringing back. Last year, we brought it back in a different way. We imagined, what if the CJ Cafe kept going on after that show ended? We imagined it being in the hands of new proprietors. This year, that's Elisa and Kate and Sarah. We imagined the ownership being passed on from the original Ben to Claire and Jordan, who then passed it on to the next proprietors. And this show picks up with Elisa and Kate and Sarah taking on the management and the running and the ownership of the CJ Cafe. And this year, they're doing it via Zoom, because that's the only way we can connect right now. The message of CJ is a message of community. It's a message of hope. It's a message of bringing the gospel message into a world that desperately needs to hear it. In spite of the challenges of these times, that message is more vital than ever. So we are thrilled that the creative talents behind this group, that includes a lot of the kids in the group themselves, got together and said, let's do this virtually. And so they've created this. They've created the Zoom chat rooms. They've created the videos. And together we've created CJ Cafe, Building on Our Dreams, the Quarantine Edition. I'm so glad you're watching. I hope you can share this with others. And we are so glad that we are still connected. We present now CJ Cafe, Building on Our Dreams, Quarantine Edition.
Hey, you guys, let's visit our friends.
Sounds great.
Sure.
Well, it started with a dream and some people who believed, and together they created a cafe where different people came and they shared their own ideas and they listened to what others might say, with one eye on the prize and another on the task and a couple of feet planted on the earth. They connected with the truth that everyone belongs and everyone has sacred worth. We still find our heart's desire when we let our souls catch fire with the love that from each one streams. We are building, building, building on our dreams. we still have such a long way to go. So we honor where we've been and we pick up some new friends and we listen to the things that they know. We struggle and we try, always lifting up our eyes to the light that guides us all on our way. For the hearts and minds and hands that have led us to today, we are grateful more than words can say. We still find our heart's desire when we let our souls catch fire. With the love that from each one streams, we are building, building, building on our dreams. We have seen all God's people as one. We have seen what we can become. The dream is still all that we can be when we share in God's community. We still find our heart's desire when we let our souls catch fire. With the love that from each one streams, we are building, 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 building on our dreams.
Sarah, you're muted.
Oh, I didn't know I was muted.
Like my background, everyone?
Oh, I forgot to let Faith in from the waiting room.
I thought I had the wrong link.
Hey, it's good to see everyone again. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to World Changers. Our mission is to provide for the basic needs of the community and beyond: clothing, housing, and shelter.
We usually meet at the CJ Cafe, but for now, we're here until we can get back together in person.
Aw, I love the CJ Cafe. I can't wait to go back.
I know. It'll be so good to see everyone in person someday.
Well, Zoom will be okay for our meeting spot today. It's what we've got, so let's get to work.
First, let's prioritize the most pressing needs and talk about how we can address them.
I wish we could DoorDash some CJ Cafe lattes. Man, I've missed a good cup of coffee. We've been going there for years.
It was perfect. I hope they can reopen soon. It was such a great spot to organize and mobilize to stage protests and demonstrations.
But now, a lot of that mobilization has moved online, and the protests and demonstrations are still happening. And we still have all the tools we need to do the most important work, like drafting legislation.
Not even a pandemic can stop you from drafting legislation.
Well, yeah, it's more important now than ever.
Wow, I love your background. I've never been to the cafe, but I've seen lots of pictures because my uncle used to go to Bible study there.
Yeah, that's where it all started.
We've come a long way since then.
We have. We're still rooted in Scripture, but now it's about how we live out our faith.
Amen. And even though the pandemic has kept us from meeting in person, we're still able to grow together and provide a welcoming place for new friends.
Sarah, these groups have such different agendas. Do you think CJ Cafe will ever really bring people together? And it's so much harder now since we all have to be socially distanced. We can't even provide that cool air-conditioned space and a nice glass of iced coffee to welcome people in.
Oh, it still does bring people together, Kate. It's always been more than a physical place for people to gather. It's a space and a community where they feel welcome,
where ideas of changing the world flow freely. A space where it's okay to lament the state of the world we're in right now and dream big about what we can do about it, both at the same time.
But it feels like each group is so isolated on their own calls. They don't even know that the others exist anymore. It really seems like they're talking about different things.
They are, for now.
I don't know. Ben started this great place, and Claire and Jordan continued the wonderful work that he started, and they passed it on to us. And we've been doing it for a while, but it feels like we've totally lost control since we've had to close in March. It feels like nothing's moving forward anymore. I thought it would be different.
How so?
Like more unified, more willing to take on all these challenges together, more united towards a common goal.
Sometimes people are more united than they first appear.
Maybe, but I doubt Ben or Claire and Jordan thought we'd still be so divided in our separate camps all these years later. And nobody could have predicted the craziness that we're living in now.
Well, the problem we're having here are reflected on a larger scale in our country and all around the world. The pandemic has made us all feel disconnected, unheard, and stuck. And so we see things like extreme loneliness, police violence, and divisive politics taking over our world.
But why are there still such separate groups? How can we keep the people united? How can we solve these giant, impossible problems when we can't even sit down over a cup of coffee? Where have the people gone? The ones who are willing to risk something big for something good?
Well, nobody has the answers. It's all about working through these questions together, deciding together what to risk and what we're working towards.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's hard to do. It's been hard for me, but it's worth it. We need people who are willing to fully dive into the questions and come out changed on the other side, to gather here.
Well, remember Ben's motto that was posted above the bar?
Wait, I have a picture.
Yes, the people who need to find this place will find it.
You think that's still true?
I know it's still true.
I hope you're right.
Has it really been 12 years? It was 12 years ago that he walked out that door and he said goodbye. Someone cried, said it'd never be the same. But look now, do you think we've really changed? Oh, we've grown and we changed, painted walls, rearranged, and we're seeing more beyond the door. Guess it's never been the same. Yesterday turned quickly into now, and all I'm thinking about is what's beyond the walls. What's your passion? Find your people, dream about a big tomorrow. This could be your goal. A call to do something that's big and bold. Come on now, you've got a hand to hold, dreams to mold, I've been told. What if I'm not sure which way to go? What if my dreaming is far too slow? Where to go? I don't know. Somewhere past the door, I know there's so much more. Something in my heart keeps nudging me to start. Walk alongside me, there's a different way to see. Risk is where we start. Oh, risk will change our heart. Yesterday turned quickly into now, and all I'm thinking about is what's beyond the walls. What's your passion? Find your people, dream about a big tomorrow. This could be your call. This could be your call. This could be a start. This could be the place where we will make our mark.
Hi, welcome to CJ Cafe.
Elisa, we're not at the CJ Cafe.
I'm so used to saying that. Well, welcome to the CJ Cafe, online edition. Is this your first time here?
Yep, it's my first time dropping into the CJ Cafe on a Zoom call. I've never been able to visit since I live far away, but I've heard about your community for quite a while.
Yeah, the group we're a part of, World Changers, got its start at the CJ Cafe and has started connecting with like-minded people all around the world since we've moved online.
That sounds great. What's it been like to only meet online?
It was really hard at first. We used to have these passionate discussions about justice with great friends that we really have connections with. And it isn't easy to convey all of that through a screen.
But a few weeks into the shelter-in-place order, I saw a post about this group doing really cool work. Even though I live 3 time zones away, I got to join the World Changers Zoom meeting with a few of my local friends, and the next week, a few more people came, and now we've grown a ton.
Yeah, a bunch of people who never would have met in person realized that they shared a passion for making the world better and that there are ways to stay connected.
And they found that together they could keep taking steps to change the world.
It's so cool to have found this group at this time. And it seems like it's evolved a lot in the last few months. But everyone is still committed to doing concrete things to do a difference.
Right. We have people who serve breakfast every Saturday for the homeless, groups that make bagged lunches, and we help with meals at several local shelters.
We have a winter shelter on one of our church's campuses, and this group has helped us figure out ways to keep it open this year so that our guests aren't exposed to the virus.
And we've always partnered with schools and churches to collect coats and PJs and warm blankets.
And local restaurants that are sharing food that would be otherwise thrown away.
I heard about this group because they created online resources to teach folks all over the world how to care for their communities during a pandemic. Now I know how to safely provide bagged lunches to folks in need in my town, and I have this community supporting me along the way.
Where there's a need, we try to find ways to meet it.
And we don't do it alone. We partner with community agencies, faith communities, and civic organizations. These organizations have helped us create public and always evolving documents to help people figure out how and where to give or get help. We're better together.
Right. Our group is made up of people from all over the world with different interests, religious beliefs, political affiliations, and access to resources.
Going online was hard for sure, and we miss being together in person. But once we got here, we realized that there are a lot more ways to do the thing that matters most, meeting people's immediate needs.
And there are so many needs.
If the children ask for bread, you don't give them a stone.
If the people cry for help, you don't leave them alone.
If the hungry want some fish, you don't give them a snake.
If we want to do some good,
We gotta stay awake. Before anything else, we gotta meet the needs. Before making the speech, we gotta do the deeds. Hungry people don't care if we're red or blue. What we say doesn't help, only what we do. We gotta meet the needs, meet the needs. 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 If the homeless need a shelter, you don't make a speech.
if the jobless need a job, you don't simply preach.
If the lonely need a friend, you don't turn them away.
If the poor need assistance,
No matter what we say. Before anything else, we gotta meet the needs. Before making a speech, we gotta do the deeds. Hungry people don't care if we're red or blue. What we say doesn't help, only what we do. We gotta meet the needs, meet the needs. Meet the needs, meet the needs. Meet the needs,
is that the hungry people are here now, and there are more hungry people now than maybe ever before.
Most of us don't even see the homeless people we used to step over almost every day on our way to work because we've been working from home. But that doesn't mean they're not still there.
This group has helped us stay motivated and equipped to take action for the people who are experiencing more struggles than ever before, even when it's easier to deal with the grief and stress that we're feeling.
Right. So many needs aren't being met right now because of everything going on. We try to keep folks afloat the best we can.
It's really about survival.
As long as there are people falling off the grid, falling into poverty, being exposed to unsafe and unhealthy conditions just because they don't have the means to sanitize or buy a mask or stay inside, we have to be sure there's a safety net there to catch them.
And catch them now. You know that old saying, give a hungry person a fish, you feed that person. Teach a hungry person to fish and you feed a village? Well, that's all well and good, but if the person is too weak to fish, they need to eat first. If the person is too sick to work, they need health care first.
It's just about first things first. As long as there are hurting people, nothing else matters.
Start at square one. If you gather up your people, you can overcome all the obstacles awaiting you on the road. See how together we can lighten the load. We got the power to feed the poor. We got compassion and so much more for the hungry and the hurting and the empty cup. It only takes a couple fish to change it all up. Oh, first things first, you gotta give 'em a fish. First things first, you gotta give 'em a fish. First things first, you gotta give 'em a fish. If you wanna get to heaven, gotta give 'em a fish. First things first, gotta give it. First things first, gotta give it. Give it, give it, give it, give it now. If you wanna get to heaven, well, this is how. Nothing else matters if no one starts. Quit dragging your heels and be smart. Think about the people whose lives will change when you work to make a difference in God's name. We got the power that's given away. We got the power that comes when we pray for the troubled and thirsty and the weary hearts. Bread and fish again, that's a mighty good start. First things first, you gotta give 'em a fish. First things first, you gotta give 'em a fish. First things first, you gotta give 'em a fish. If you wanna get to heaven, gotta give 'em a fish. First things first, gotta give it. First things first, gotta give it. Give it, give it, give it, give it now. If you wanna get to heaven, well, this is how. Fishy, fishy, give 'em a fish. Fishy, fishy, give 'em a fish. Fishy, fishy, give 'em a fish. Give 'em a fish. Fishy, fishy, give 'em a fish. Fishy, fishy, give 'em a fish. Fishy, fishy, give 'em a fish. Give 'em a fish.
I get their point, Sarah, but I still think they're missing the bigger picture.
Missing the bigger picture?
Of course they are. We all miss the bigger picture to some degree. But don't worry, be open, let it unfold, and see what happens. Want to check in on the next session?
Okay.
I can't believe we still can't meet back at the CJ Cafe. I love that place.
Yeah, it sounds like a really special place for sure. I've never had time to go in person since I worked so much. Now that I have time, they have to be closed.
It's an awesome little coffee shop. Our group got its start there. From the beginning, we met at the CJ Cafe to organize and plan ways to disrupt the system, to raise awareness, to work for justice.
But now this group has made headway. Now we're committed to making social change by bringing down the systems of oppression that have created the conditions that lead to poverty, racism, and other injustices.
To disrupt the things that cause people so much hurt.
Exactly. In those early days, everybody in the cafe went out and did service projects, meeting the needs of the people right where they were. And that was great, of course, as far as it goes.
We have some friends who still do that kind of stuff, actually.
Yeah, the needs have to be met, but some of us wanted to do more. So our focus is now strategizing ways to change the system.
That's right. Even though there are a lot of precautions to take because of coronavirus, there's still really important work to be done right now, like organizing better oversight of police departments and bringing more funding into places in our community that need it most.
Like schools, libraries, and other social services.
Yup. What we're doing is the only way to really change things. Otherwise, we'll be making sandwiches forever. And really, sandwiches? That's not what we're about. If you want to know the truth, we're about changing the system.
You can fish a lake empty, steer the hungry and for more. You can build 1,000,000 shelters, still the homeless sleep outside your door. You can broker peace in one place while another goes to war. You can serve soup every weekend, but the thing you can't ignore is it's the system.
We are pouring our resources into buckets filled with holes. We are following the leaders who make policies by polls. So the poor become statistics and not living, breathing souls. And instead of asking why, we're just trying to meet our goals. Yeah, it's the system.
It's the system that creates these conditions. It's the system that sustains these addictions. Where success is defined by acquisition, and oppressed stay oppressed by definition, by the system. It's the system. Power, wealth, and greed create systems based on need, and the ones in power feed on the weakest. It's time to overhaul systems that deny the call. Justice is for all, not elitist.
When we only feed the hungry, the hunger soon returns. It's time to ask the question why we seem to never learn that until the system changes, most will have the same concerns. Service hasn't led to healing, and that leads us to discern that it's the system.
system that creates these conditions. It's the system that sustains these addictions, where success is defined by acquisition, and oppressed stay oppressed by definition, by the system. It's the system. It's the system. It's the system.
See, the thing is, it's good and noble work to feed the hungry and provide shelters to house the homeless. It's critical to provide care to those who are sick and without health care. But unless we look at the things that are causing hunger and homelessness and unequal access to health care, we'll stay stuck in an endless cycle of charity.
Maybe even more importantly, small changes in acts of charity won't do anything to change those giant problems that have been plaguing our country since its inception: racism and white supremacy.
Those problems have marginalized people of color and othered them for centuries, while the myth of the American dream was preached to everyone else. On the small scale, that leads to things like microaggression. And on the large scale, we see horrors like slavery, using Black bodies for medical experiments without their consent, and violence, from lynching to police brutality today.
What we're seeing happening now in the aftermath of George Floyd's murder is that we hope there may be some actual change happening for the first time in a long time. And that's not cause of small changes like police taking anti-bias class or a pastor preaching about how people of all races should just get along.
Yeah, look at Black Lives Matter. Those protests are about big conversations and time-consuming changes that will slowly get us to where we need to be. Not about putting a Band-Aid over every problem.
The one thing for sure about putting Band-Aids on all the issues we're facing is we'll run out of Band-Aids. We'll get burnt out.
And meanwhile, the need just grows bigger and bigger.
And compassion fatigue sets in.
Right. Meeting the needs feels good, but it's the low-hanging fruit. If we really want to make a difference, we have to dig deeper.
The bottom line is that as long as there are systems in place that depend on some people profiting at the expense of others, there's going to be a never-ending cycle of poverty and injustice. And that will never stop until the whole system's dismantled.
Right. It leads to a never-ending cycle of pain, disease, inequality, and despair.
The way a lot of things are right now, from poverty to racism to other forms of discrimination, is wrong.
Yeah.
And wrong must be made right.
Yeah.
It's up to us, not just to heal the hurt, but to right the wrong that has created the hurt.
Yeah.
Mama always told me, Daddy told me too, and Grandma told me over and over and over till she turned blue. You gotta change the system, you gotta learn to right the wrong, and figure out a new way so that everyone belongs.
It's not about the sandwich, it's not about the bread. It's all about equal pay so family can be fed from the work of their own hands, from a place of pride, not shame. Let's make it happen. I'd like to try if it's all the same.
Honey, butter, and cornbread. Right the wrong and let the people all be blessed. Right the wrong and free the people from unrest. The system is broken. It's time to heal it all up. Let's get it all together. Let's be heads up.
Well, they certainly are passionate.
They are, but so were the others, and it seems like they're almost in competition with each other. Meet the needs versus change the system.
There's a human tendency to view a lot of life as competition, to think there's only our way. And when you're caught up in the middle of a really stressful situation, like we are with COVID, and political division and uproar about racial injustice, it's really hard to see a way besides the one you're sure is right.
That certainly seems to be how they're thinking.
Yeah, for now, part of the magic of CJ Cafe is that as people gather here, they begin to see things differently.
Well, I know we've seen that before. I'm just not sure we're seeing it now.
Sometimes in the moment, you can't be sure what you're seeing. Our job is to keep doing what we're doing and creating the space for miracles to happen, even now.
I know. I'm trying. Let's meet our next group.
Pretty amazing to think it all started as a Bible study 12 years ago. I still remember the first time I walked into the CJ Cafe and met all of you.
And remember Ben, the first owner? I wonder what he's up to now.
Yeah, a lot has happened since those days.
A lot has happened since just the beginning of March. I miss seeing all of you in person and worshiping together.
You're right. We've had to totally rethink what this group is about and how we do what we do. We've had to adopt a lot of essential parts of our faith life to work online, from recording worship services ahead of time to having do-it-yourself communion at home and, oh yeah, all those endless Zoom calls.
It's been a challenging adjustment for sure, and we're still struggling to get it all right. But since our group first started, and from March till now, we've kept on keeping on. We've really made a lot of progress in our understanding of putting our faith into action. Not that Bible studies are not important. It's still at the heart of growing in our faith.
Right. What we've realized, though, is that after being a part of the CJ Cafe and listening to and learning from others, we can't help but see that it's not enough to just grow inwardly in our faith.
Exactly. It's not just about personal holiness, but also social responsibility.
Essentially, two sides of the same coin. Social responsibility seems more important now than it ever has, especially then when we think about things like working seriously towards racial injustice or caring for each other during a pandemic. At the same time, though, without digging deep into our faith, we can't act on that social responsibility.
There's been a lot of conversation about whether we are justified by faith alone, or whether it is by good works that we are saved.
Conversation? More like one of the greatest theological debates of all time.
Yeah, we studied that. The book of James says, faith without works is dead, but the Apostle Paul says it's by faith alone that we are saved.
And somehow that's become a big argument.
And on the one hand, it's led to the idea that you can buy your way into heaven by doing good things. And on the other hand, it's led to people thinking they don't have to do anything, just profess their belief.
But it's such a false choice. If you really have faith, you can't help but live it out. It's impossible as people of faith to ignore the cries of God's people, to ignore the hatred and division that has come between us, and to leave the broken pieces of the world broken without doing what we can to heal them back up.
But none of that can happen if we don't keep replenishing our energy by turning back to the source and the one who calls us to this hard work, God.
Exactly. What we've come to realize is that the two can't be separated. It begins with faith, but the deeper we go into our faith, the more we are called to live out our faith by the good works we do.
We can't take true, authentic action in the world, like serving our communities and working for justice, unless that action is rooted in living and growing faith. And our faith will never live and grow unless we practice it out in the world.
We have come through faith by the gift of love, the love of God, living and true. Once we know this love, we must show this love in all that we say and we do.
The gift of faith is the gift of love. is to live in love, to be love in action. Amen.
As we grow within, as we read and pray, we increase in the love of the Lord. We bring healing to this hurting world. Through mercy we live out God's word.
The gift of faith is the gift of love for God, self, and neighbor. Amen. To live in faith is to live in love, to be love in action. Amen. Faith leads to works, and good works deepen faith. Joined by God in love, not ours to separate. The love born in us sees its fullness in all. Bringing hope to the world is our faith's strongest hope. The gift of faith is the gift of love for God, self, and neighbor. Amen. To live in faith is to live in love, to be love in action. Amen. To be love in action. Amen. To be love in action.
I think that's what makes the difference for us. Unless it's an extension of our faith, doing good things just comes up a little bit empty.
Yeah, doing good things is an important part of our faith.
But our faith is an essential part of doing good things.
I think what we've learned more than anything else is that it begins and ends with faith. And our faith leads us deeper into relationship with God and Jesus, and that, in turn, leads us into relationship with God's world. We can never have one without the other.
It's being the hands and the feet of Christ.
Having one foot in the church and one foot in the world.
But always being grounded in the community of faith.
One foot here, one foot there. Merge the two, let's not be scared to step into the world and watch your faith come walking right alongside. Called to be so much more, living faith beyond the door. So loving people every day that leads along a brand new way. Oh, one foot here and one foot over there. Step out and be filled, be bold and be thrilled. Don't disrupt from God's will. Unfold and be still. Oh, one foot here and one foot over there. Safe to launch, safe to land. Things may change, but Christ will stand. Don't right between the fear and doubt, and also work God's love will win out. We've got the why, we've got the how, we've got the vision, let's go now. Yeah, keep on moving forward so the church can advance its mission in the world. With one foot here and one foot over there. Step out and be filled, be bold and be thrilled. Don't disrupt from God's will. Unfold and be still. Oh, one foot here and one foot over there. Step out, step out, step out. Step out, step out, step out. Step out,
amazing.
Yeah. Hey, you guys, we have to log off for a second, but we'll be right back on. We'll have a special celebration with you when we come back.
What kind of celebration?
Oh, well, a CJ kind of celebration.
Pretty much what we've always done, celebrating who we are, the stories we share, and where we can go from here, even or maybe especially when here feels really far from where we'd like to be.
Ooh, intriguing.
Just hang tight and you'll see. I remember hearing how Claire and Jordan used to worry about whether or not the people were getting it. Now I understand how they felt. And even they had no clue what we'd be up against with the time of social distancing.
What do you mean?
Oh, just that CJ Cafe has always been about people coming together and sharing their own stories and listening to each other's stories. It's just so hard for those things to happen right now. Everything feels upside down.
Don't worry. We might not physically be there, but this is still the CJ Cafe, and that is still what we're about.
It just seems that they still get pretty caught up in their own stories.
Sure, everybody does. That's been true forever, and especially right now, there is so much to get caught up in. However, we're affected by all the current events. We're all experiencing some kind of trauma, grief, or confusion. So we're here for not only them to share their stories, but to remind them of how important they are to each other.
I just wish we didn't always have to be reminded. Who knows how long we'll be dealing with all these questions? I wish it would just get easier and clearer, and then we could all get along better along the way.
That's just part of living in community. And remember, from the day Ben first opened this place, it's been about modeling it after the community of the disciples that Jesus called together. It's still about that too. Remember, they dealt with violence and fear and isolation and exhaustion too.
And I guess Jesus had to keep reminding them of the bigger picture.
He did and does. Our job is to live as fully as we can in the beloved community that began 2,000 years ago. A community of hope, of inclusion, of change.
And to always realize that we have what it takes to get through this time and come out stronger.
Exactly. Ready to start that celebration we were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, let's click the button together. 1,
2,
3.
Whoa, who are all these people? What happened to our World Changers meeting?
Well, I'm here, but I'm not sure how all these other people got here.
We were in the middle of planning the grand opening of our new healthcare program.
I'm so confused. We were doing Lectio Divina on a great passage, and all of a sudden we're here with all these new people? What's this about, Sarah?
Hold on. Let's talk one at a time.
What's going on here?
We're just shaking things up a bit. Everyone, this is Lainey, part of the World Changers group that started at the CJ Cafe.
You know, it's kind of weird not being on our own separate calls.
No kidding. We have different things we're working on, Kate. This isn't going to work.
Well, actually, Justine, we think this is the only way this will work.
Each of you is doing really important work. Some of you are boots on the ground, feeding people, building houses, administering COVID tests for essential workers, and making sure people are warm in the winter. Some of you are working at a systems level, trying to end the cycles of racism and poverty. Some of you are rooted in your church communities, doing the best you can to live out your faith, even when the church building is closed.
But what if you came together? What if you saw what each of you is doing as a piece of the puzzle, as a part of a bigger picture?
Each of us has something to contribute. Each of us is a piece of the whole.
What if it's true, what everyone said? What if together everyone's right? What if each one is a piece of the whole? What if it's colorful and not black or white? There are systems to change and people to feed, a gospel to live and a world that's in need. We are each a piece of the whole. Everyone here must play a role in changing the world, in righting the wrong, in creating a place where we all can belong. So find your place and make some more room. Tend to God's garden where everyone blooms. Listen and learn
It's easy to think there is only one way, and that way is mine, no ifs, ands, or buts. But when we let blinders limit our view, that's when we get stuck in all kinds of ruts. There's systems to change and people to feed, a gospel to live and a world that's in need.
We are each a piece of the whole. Everyone here must play a role in changing the world, in righting the wrong, in creating a place where we all can belong. So find your place and make some more room. Tend to God's garden where everyone blooms. Listen and learn, trust and believe. Open your heart to the love we receive, then you'll know you're a piece of the whole. The way to wholeness, the way to change, is sharing solutions, ideas to exchange. The way to healing, the way to hope, is to broaden our vision, widen our soul. We are each a piece of the whole. Everyone here must play a role in changing the world, in righting the wrong, in creating a place where we all can belong. So find your place and make some more room. Tend to God's garden where everyone blooms. Listen and learn, trust and believe. Open your heart to the love we receive, then you'll know you're a piece of the whole. Then you'll know you're a piece of the whole. Then you'll know you're a piece of the whole.
Some of you probably remember, and I'm sure a lot of you didn't know, but CJ Cafe started as a way of trying to bring those pieces together to create a place where it all made sense.
And that's still what it is.
Yeah, for sure. The guy who started it, Ben, did it as an expression and a living out of his Christian faith.
Wait, you never said anything about us needing to be Christians.
No, you're right. I definitely wouldn't have said that. You don't need to be anything. For Ben and for Claire and Jordan after him and for Kate, Elisa, and me, we are Christians. And that means striving to live our lives as disciples. For us, that is lived out here in the CJ Cafe Zoom room, at least for now.
You just said it's not about faith, but all the pieces fitting together.
True. It is all about the pieces. Maybe it's better to think of it as a tapestry. Not really different pieces that fit together like a jigsaw, but different strands that weave together. Faith weaves through it all, and so does caring for people. And so does working to eradicate injustice and oppression.
So there's room for everyone?
Of course. That's why we brought you all together on this one call. Sometimes this will be the gathering place for people with many different beliefs and point of views. For us, though, first it is a place where we share communion with each other.
We're connected as a body of Christ. Yes, even now. We bring our brokenness and the brokenness of our world and give it to God. In that, surrendering, we are freed and made whole again.
Without sharing this connection by breaking the bread and sharing the cup, nothing else is possible. With it, all things are possible. Of course, we know it looks different right now. We don't know when we'll get to celebrate communion together again, in person, when we will be able to break the bread and share the cup. For now, go ahead and find something like bread and something like juice and come back to celebrate with us.
A bigger table's what he said. Room for every kind of bread. A space where all can now be fed together.
So share a meal and take the cup. There's a new way, fill us up and send us out into the world together to make a change.
Everything about Jesus, his life, his teachings, his actions, his death, his resurrection is about one thing: love.
More specifically about God's love, and making sure that everyone knows that God's love is for them, no matter who they are or what they've done.
It's why we can't stay disconnected when we are sharing this meal together.
No matter how far apart we are physically, or how bad our internet connection, how long it'll be till we can be together again, or how different our communion elements are from each other, God's love always, always finds and welcomes each and every one of us.
Look with eyes that thirst for more. Crush the threshold on the floor and see beyond the open door. Together, the world is waiting now for you to heal it and to make it new. Compassion has a different view when we're together to change the world.
Sharing this sacred meal together is a reminder both of our brokenness and our being made whole through God's love.
We are broken by our own divisions and by the hurt and suffering in the world.
And we are made whole by coming together and working through those divisions so that we can work together to heal the world.
We share that vision, and we recommit ourselves to living into that vision every time we share this meal together. Let this prayer from the Iona community be our prayer. Creator of this world and all its people, we are glad that all things are held in your hands. You have not left us alone, and we celebrate the work of your Spirit, encouraging people the world over to work for justice and peace, to speak for the voiceless, and always to anticipate that the best is yet to come.
If, however, we have driven a wedge between piety and peacemaking, erected a wall between prayer and politics, associated the purposes of heaven with only the gentler things of earth, God of justice, show yourself.
If we have offered to false gods the devotion you alone deserve, if we have dismissed the gospel as irrelevant to the world,
God of justice, show yourself.
If we have dumbed down your word and domesticated your spirit because we wanted an easier faith and tamer dove,
God of justice, show yourself.
Whenever in our nations the poor are endangered, the sick are neglected, prisoners are refused redemption, and strangers among us are suspected,
God of justice, show yourself.
Wherever in our world the lust for profit undermines the longing for peace, the greed for power overrides the need for fairness, and the privilege of one race takes away the humanity of another,
God of justice, show yourself.
in the prison visitor and the mediator, in vigils for peace and protests to protect the earth, to all who fear for the future of children, to those who long for a different way,
God of justice, show yourself.
May God our Maker bless us and wrap us round in love and tenderness.
May Jesus our brother bless us and ask us the questions that lead us to change the world.
May the Holy Spirit bless us and fill our lives with her courage and wisdom.
May we live bravely in the love of the Trinity all our nights and days. Amen.
Change is the starting place. Change communes in sacred space. Change is God's redeeming grace. Forever together to change the world.
One day, when things get back to some form of normal, We'll all sit together at one table at the CJ Cafe. But that won't be for a while. For now, our project is staying strong and staying together through all of this.
But it's so hard to be on a Zoom call with so many people. We can never hear each other, and it's so hard to focus.
That is always a challenge. Making space for others, staying awake and aware, making sure we don't close ourselves off to new people and new ideas.
So, how do we do that?
For some of us, maybe it means moving on to someplace new and bringing the message there, starting something new.
For others, it means starting here, gathering together for inspiration and renewal, and then going out into the community, into the world to make change.
For all of us, it means staying connected to each other, to this beautiful world, to the message.
The message that is the vision that is the message.
The message of hope, of welcome, of love for each and all of us.
And carrying that message wherever we go.
Making space for all, that's our sacred call. There's room at the table here. Let love chase away fear.
But what if we forget? We're still not there yet. How do we keep it real? There's so much left to heal.
Don't forget, the truth is there inside you. Don't forget, you've had it all along. You can see it everywhere around you. You can hear it sung in every song. When you hear the truth, a voice inside you, shout so loud that you have got it right. When you share the truth, the light within you shines from you, a brilliant guiding light. We've got to carry it far, carry it near, make it loud for all to hear. We can carry on from here. Carry it far, carry it near, make it loud for all to hear. We must carry the message on from here. When the message is God's love for all creation, it catches on everywhere it's at. It fills the world with cause for celebration. And the message can't be kept from being spread. We've got to carry it far, carry it near, make it loud for all to hear. We can't carry on from here. Carry it far, carry it near, make it loud for all to hear. We will carry the message on from here.
We are so grateful that you joined us at the CJ Cafe tonight. And a special welcome to our friends at Laramie UMC, Sparks UMC, and Crossroads UMC, all churches who chose to do tour with us in a very unique way. So welcome, welcome all. I've got to say, it took many conversations and many cups of coffee to breathe a different kind of life into this quarantine edition of the CJ Cafe, because the world has changed so much over the last year. The pandemic, serious racial unrest, isolation and anxiety, more homelessness and hunger than we have seen in a long time, and a government that is struggling. All have left us untethered in one way or another from the familiar we once knew. It's in times like these that we find the only way to survive is to reach out further. It's in times like these that we need to listen harder and speak less so that we can make change in ourselves in order to make change in the world. It's in times like these that we push ourselves to understand and live out the word compassion, even with those who we don't always see eye to eye with. It's in times like these that we must learn to lean on our faith to find all that is good and right in a time of such brokenness. The CJ Cafe has offered us a reminder, a glimpse of what God has invited us into. It's an invitation to a place of gentleness and kindness, a place that speaks truth, a place that feeds body and soul, a place that includes everyone at the table, a place that allows you to build on dreams God planted deep inside of you. I pray that tonight you will be emboldened to live out the message of the CJ Cafe. As always, we will take an offering to help bring about change in our communities. But before that, I'm really excited to invite you to be part of a Q&A with our cast and crew right after the show ends. Just hang tight and stay on this page, and a forum will appear right here where the video is playing. You'll be able to share comments and ask questions of the cast and crew in the chat box. It's kind of like the time after a show where you share fellowship together. And right now, in this time of isolation, it would mean the world of us to be in community with you. So, back to our offering and the ways we can collectively make impact in the world. You'll find the links for giving to your church's mission in the chat room as well as on the screen. LAUMC has chosen to support Art Changes Us, a new ministry of our church that offers youth in the greater Mountain View area the opportunity to discover purpose through art. And yes, it is the ministry that grew out of my Changemaker Fellowship. Crossroads UMC has chosen to support The House, an organization serving homeless youth in Grand Junction, Colorado area. Sparks UMC has chosen to support Wendy's Cafe, a ministry that offers free meals and fellowship to Sparks, Nevada community. Laramie UMC hadn't selected an organization at the time of this recording, so we simply ask you to send the donations directly to the church with community outreach in the memo. And while you're making your offerings, I would like to make an offering of deep gratitude to those who worked on this collaborative project, to Starfire singers and their families, the LAUMC Youth Tech Team led by CJ Arneson, Christina Sinks, who integrated new text to reflect the state of the world today, Bill Hare Productions, and Dirk DeMonte, my partner in the creation of this musical and my partner in life. Thank you all for the gifts you have shared.
Never make songs on
Good night, my friends.